are you ready for day 2? On day 2, we are going to applique the eye in place. And in this case, our eye has this adorable little butterfly dot on top. And so we are going to cut those loose pieces out loosely, iron onto the pink, iron onto the white. Now there's a point I want to tell you here. I moved the eye over to the side so I have some extra here that I can keep just in case. And on this case, when you're thinking, oh good, I didn't use the rest of the wool, hang on to all of your wools until you finish the project, because you might find out that you need them. In this case, you're going to be using this white right here for the flower that goes on the pea along the bottom. Okay, cut those out and we will put them together on the placement guide, and then we'll be ready to applique them in place. That one obviously is where the end is, so we're going to go ahead and unwind a yard so that I'm ready to move, and then I'll just take this and wrap it around so I know where the end is for next time. Okay, so far we've been using chenille needles. Now we are about to use a bullion knot needle. If you are unaware, bullion knot needles, chenille needles are great. They're sharp and they have a great big eye, so they're easy to thread. But the eye, it gets wider up here. If I were to somehow zoom in super close so that you could see, the needle is thin right here, and then it gets really fat right here where the eye goes through. That makes it difficult when you're doing a stitch where you're going to wrap around the shaft of the needle to pull it through on the end. And so when I first learned to stitch, in fact, up until 2020, we did these kind of stitches with a milliner's needle. Milliner's needles are not very strong. You can see most of mine are bent. They have an itty bitty eye up here, so they're super hard to thread. And but they are the same size the whole way up. If you could feel this, it's the same size. This one in particular, I can feel gets a little bit bigger for the eye, but not very much. And so Milliner's needles were what we used. And then in 2020, Tulip, which is the only company that makes bullion knot needles at this point, made a bullion knot needle. And this one, if you could feel it, gets skinny right up here at the eye. That gives you extra room for the thread to go through. And so they are fabulous for wrapped stitches. So you can do a bullion knot needle with a milliner's needle, or you can do a bullion knot stitch with a milliner's needle, but it is not near as easy as it is if you are using a bullion knot needle. I don't recommend doing them with a chenille needle. They're just so hard to pull through. All right, we're gonna go ahead and thread this one. And pull my tail to almost even. Okay, you are probably going to want to practice the stitch a couple of times somewhere else before you start on your project. So this, you have, I can't remember how many yards is on here, but this is a limited number of yards. Use one of your threads that comes on a spool. Let me find one. Practice with one of the threads that comes on a spool, because you are going to use nowhere near that whole thing. So you will have extra of that. Whereas when they come on smaller bits like this, you may not have extra. Okay, so I would just start by picking a spot on a piece of extra wool that you have to stitch them. Okay, or you can even practice it on cotton or anything else. I'm going to start right here in the corner, and I'm going to come towards me. It uses slightly less thread if you stitch bullion knot needles towards yourself. So can you see where I'm coming out? Again, I'm staying on the black, but I'm coming out right next to the pink, right on the corner. Okay, so bring it through. Okay, for a bullion stitch, we want to take a bite. So move down and take a bite, and then come back out right next to where you came out before. You don't want to go through those threads, because that will shred things, but right next to it, okay? Now, we're not going to pull it through. We're just going to leave our bite on the needle. How long of a bite should you take? That's up to you. I am going to take about the same distance. It looks like 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit skinnier than that. It's probably what I want for this look. And then I like to almost fold my project in half, just like that, right there. And I'm going to take this thread and go clockwise around the needle. 1. The job of this finger right here is to slide those loops down so that they stay next to each other. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What I want is more thread wraps here than the distance of this little black part right here. And the reason is because I want it to kind of have a scallop to it. But you will be surprised at how tight these will pull. Like right now they look like they're that long, but I can actually scrunch them down to that same distance. And so I think I'm going to go with 14. I probably for that size would go with 14 to 16. Okay, now that I have them wrapped, I'm going to grab them with my fingers like this. Just hold your thumb and finger and hold them tight because I don't want them to unravel. I'm going to push the needle out of the way, and you can see that I have the project laid down on my table. I'm going to push the needle out of the way and pull it through. Beware of your thread wanting to just be in little knots. That's about as far as I can pull to right there because there's still a loop right here. I'm going to turn my project sideways because that's where my bullion's going to end up. And I'm still not letting go, but I'm kind of moving part of my fingers out of the way to just keep it as close as I can to right there. And just snug it up right there. That is our little bullion knot. It's not finished until you go down at the end. Now, if you put your bullion knots too close together, they will ruffle funny. Let me show you. So I'm going to come up almost a needle's width away from the last one. I still want to come up next to the pink, but I want to give it a little bit of a gap there, just a little bit. The reason for that is that when your bullion knots are too close like this, there's no room for them to lay down next to each other, so they end up flip-flopping like these guys did on one of my, this is an early project when I didn't know what I was doing. So give it a gap. Do the same thing. We're going to go down, come back up, and you're shooting for having these about the same size. See that little gap that I have right there will be enough room for the wraps on this one to lay down. Okay, remember that I fold it down. You don't have to fold it down, but I find that that gets it out of the way, so it's easier for me to make my wraps stay where they're supposed to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm going to try one more this time, 15. Pinch and hold those wraps. Pull the thread through, lay it down. Cut back from your fingers to just your fingernail if necessary, and snug it up. When you take your thread to the back, I find that I'm able to snug it even a little bit tighter. Right there. Again, leave a little bit of a gap. Come out again. So now you got the bullion knot needle down, or bullion knot stitch down, right? No, you'll need to do a lot more than this. So technically it's a bullion knot stitch even if it's straight. So when we're working on projects where we make like a little bumblebee out of them, then we don't want them to be scalloped like this. We want them to be straight. So we'd have a few less wraps. Sometimes we want to turn them into a petal. So I want them to start and stop in the same spot. And then I would take a shorter stitch and more wraps so that I would get more of that loop. And sometimes that's called a bullion knot loop. But right here, I want these to be about the same. So I'm going to take about the same size stitch each time and do about the 14 to 15 wraps each time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Pinch and hold together. Push the needle through. Don't let go, don't let go, don't let go. Use your fingernail down to the end to tighten it. Go down to the back. Give yourself a little gap. If you were to go the other direction, like start at the bottom and start making bullion knots as you work your way towards the top. See the back side of this one, I don't know if you can see that, has a straight line and then a short line each time, a straight line and a short little one each time. If you do it the other way, you end up with about 3 layers of thread back here. That's really all of the extra thread it uses, but this is the most efficient way, so I always have you work it towards yourself. Okay, fold over. There we go, I had too much tail. If you find that this is getting a little twisty, pick up your old project and drop it and let your thread unwind. And it'll unspin. And then you can go back to it and you won't have as much trouble. So let's try that again, now that my thread has unwound. So I need to take a bite, come out where you went out the last time, really close to it. Fold it over and do your wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoop. If they come loose like this and you can't get them neatly back together, because they do need to be, When they get spread out like this, if you were to just slide them down, now some of these are looser than others. Just unwind the whole thing and start again because you want them to be neat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Grab a hold of it, pinch it, pull through. Don't let go, don't let go, don't let go. And use your fingernail and let go at the very end. When you go to the back, you'll pull it a little bit tighter and make that a little more snug. Okay, so what do you do when you get to the corner? Well, you hope you time it right. But if not, you can do one that kind of wraps around the corner. Just make sure it's long enough that it fits in with the others. I'm going to shoot for 2 more right here. It's something you need to kind of plan ahead. I'm going to shoot for 2 more. Both of these are going to be a little bit longer than the ones I did above. And if they're a little bit longer, I'm probably going to put 2 extra wraps on so that they end up sticking out just as far. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 2 wraps is actually not very much longer, but I think it'll give it just enough that even though it's a little bit longer of a stitch, it'll have about the same, it'll stick out just about the same amount. Okay, last one on this side. Down in and come back out right next to where you started. Fold it over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. Grab a hold and pinch the wraps. Pull your needle through. Lay it down. Use your fingernail to snug it up that last little bit. And take it down. Okay, you are ready to finish going around this one. And then that will finish off our day 2. So each day of the first 9 days, we're going to be appliquing our letter down and then adding the edge to it in some form. Not everywhere, but somewhat. So I will see you back here for the V tomorrow. We are ready to do the second half of our day 2 here. We've got our little butterfly and our eye. They are appliqued in place with those matching stitches. You know what? I love them so much. There's a good chance I will go back and change these because I think they're going to drive me berserk. We are going to now do the bullion knot stitches around this guy. So you ready to learn bullion knots? Well, we have a slight detour first. The thread that we're going to use is this one. But when you got it on a hank that looked something like this. These hanks are a nest or a bird's nest waiting to be tangled. So the first thing you want to do is take all of the thread off, and I've obviously done it with my pink one already, so I'm going to show you with this one. You can kind of loop between your fingers and try and pull this one out, but I find it easier to just tear it right there, and then this part will go flop over. Now what I have there is now your new friendly bracelet. See how you wear it around your wrist like this? And I think it's best to wind them on a shape where you don't have to get kinks. Now that doesn't mean, it's kind of funny to hear me say that given that earlier today when I could not find my thread winders like this, I wound 2 of them on here. But the whole idea behind this is then it doesn't leave kinks in it, so you don't get folds in your thread, which most of the stitches, that's not a big deal, but sometimes when you're doing a stitch and you don't want that little dent in it. So find the end of it, slip that over your wrist. These are the seconds or the fails, so that's why they have the big black line on them. Yours won't look like that because you get good ones. But somewhere around them, usually by Eleanor the sheep's head, there's a slit in it. So go ahead and put your thread through the slit so that you can start. And then if you will hold them every other, so I want a thumb on this one, I'm gonna put my pointer finger on that one, nothing in between here. And my hands are not large enough for me to put my 3rd finger there. So my 3rd finger just lays down here and sticks his nose out. And I put my ring finger right there. Okay, if there is a finger touching the tip, then that means you can't go under it because you'd run into your finger. So go over those and under the others, over the ones that are being touched and under the others. And once you get started with this, the cute little bracelet on your wrist will unwind if you do it gently. If it pulls tight somewhere, just grab a hold of all the loops, pull it back out like this, and keep going. And around you go. And around and around. This is by far the fastest way to wind these. Run out some off of your wrist again. And around and around and around. So I'm going to finish winding this one. But now you'll know why when I take it off, it looks like I'm taking it from this. These Threadwinders are made of mat board, so they're acid free and will not cause a problem with the coloring in your threads. And they're available in 10 packs. I keep a 10 pack until because not every thread, like you don't need to rewind threads that are on spools, you don't need to rewind threads that are on balls, but I use them anytime I get thread in a hank, because those are so easy to make knots out of them. When you get to the end, I usually, because I want to be able to find it, I cross over like this because I'll know it's there, and then just go backwards one, but usually the other threads that are there will hold the end in place. But I almost forgot to tell you the most important part. The most important part is on the side that asks you what the thread is. Be sure you write that down, because you think you're going to remember what that thread is, but you're not. This one I happen to know is called Good on Black. The manufacturer on it is House of Embroidery. I abbreviate that with House, H-O-E. It's a size 8, so it's a number 8. And the Good on Black has a number associated with it, and I do not remember that one, and I have accidentally lost this in my work today. So what I would demonstrate is this one is number 5A. House of Embroideries have a number and a letter. So this one is 5A, and it's called Blue Gum. It's a size 3, so it gets a number 3 for the size. And again, it is House of Embroidery. You can write neatly on the little stickers that are on there. You can write wherever you want, but keep track of what it is, because you won't be able to remember it later. And it's sometimes hard to choose because they are hand dyed. There's a little bit of dye lot changes between the spools, or between the hanks, so it might confuse you.